to go to court to be fined because other folks outside the house, outside the community, are making decisions on their behalf, not knowing what's going on in that household or what are the circumstances? If you're dealing with poverty, if you're dealing with health conditions, if you're dealing with crime, if you're dealing with all these other things, how do you expect our children to go to school and learn? Hunger. How many kids go to bed hungry? Not counting the criminal justice system where they're 10 families apart. And now that women are the fastest growing population in the prison system. So what do you think happens when a mother goes to jail? Her kids going into the foster care system. Need I say more? Because Nebraska is number one in the country for taking kids out of homes in the country. The fact of the matter is, until we as a community educate ourselves, insulate ourselves, but advocate for our children, which means we got to understand the laws, which means we got to understand how to write a bill. Because these politicians don't know how to write a bill. Senator Chambers will tell you that. That's why a lot of these bills don't get passed, because they don't know what they're... I almost said the word. They don't know what they're doing. You know, they got a thing that say, buyer beware. Black folks beware. Everything, majority of things that these folks are doing is meant for the destruction and extinction of our communities and our children. Let's say, Mr. Hamilton, you're over-exaggerating. Whatever. Look at the condition. And if you want to use statistics, I can't lie about the statistics. How can we be a 12% population, but yet we are 6% of the prison system? Over 50% of the criminal justice. Number one in poverty. Education, I mean, please. Almost a 60% dropout. 65, matter of fact. Go check the numbers. But we're only 12% of the population. You would think if it had about a 60% of the population, or 55, because that's what Europeans are, they would have a little bit smaller numbers. But do your research. But I don't even blame them. I blame us for not protecting our kids. I blame us. We can't dictate what they do, but we can do something for ourselves. I think the revolution is black men. And why I say that? 80% of all homes right now are headed by women. 80%. And statistics speak for themselves. When a man is in the house, a child is more likely not to get involved with a gang, more likely not to get kicked out of school, more likely not to drop out of school. And the list goes on and on and on. Not have behavior problems. And that's why the focus has always been on the extinction of black men, to get them out of the household so they couldn't impact their children's lives. And now we have a law in the books, a law that makes it a crime if a child missed 20 days. Have you ever heard anything so ludicrous? And then they said, well, Mr. Hamilton, all they have to do is pay $250, $300. Did you hear what I just said earlier with number one in poverty? I'm about to go back and get y'all my top 10 list on why black folks are leaving Nebraska. And when I read that, man, everybody was mad at me. But you couldn't argue with the statistics, because everything I said, I gave you somewhere where you can go and check. 1690 AM the one. We come with it real. That's why it's called Real Talk. We ain't out trying to make new friends. If you want to work with us, we'll work with you. But at the end of the day, it's about transforming our community, making an impact in our community, economic development. But anyway, this article says parents say truancy law casts too wide a net. Nebraska parents and school children called on state lawmakers today to amend the state truancy law so it stops subjecting good kids to potential prosecution. I told you they made it a crime. Continual prosecution, possible prosecution for missing school. So now it has become a crime to miss school. The United States locks up more people than all countries combined. But yet we have a recidivism rate almost 78%. To me, that's insanity. Because you did this over and over and over and over again, and you got a 80% chance that the person going back to jail. So that tells me what? The same thing should be telling you. It doesn't work. Is it best to deal with something while you're having is it best to deal with a heart attack when you're having it or before you get it? I think before you get it. So if you had all the preventive things before this, it would have never got into the system. We got to start doing these things before it's too late. That's why you want to call the police after a crime has been committed. Well, it's too late. We need to do something before that. Getting fathers back into the homes. Taking control of our schools. Because education is an equalizer. Whether it be skilled or through college. And they know it. And more importantly, man, we got to own something. We got to stop buying up everything. Among those who have been caught up in the truancy law net are an 8th grade girl. Come on, are you serious? Now, how you going to take an 8th grade to court and charge her with a crime for missing school? I think you need to get some psychological testing and support around her and her family and find out what's going on. You don't prosecute them. It doesn't make any sense to me. Does not compute. What it does is put barriers to make our kids unsuccessful. And you wonder why when our kids get older, they don't want to have anything to do with the court system? Now you even going even deeper than that. Because now in the 4th, 5th, 6th, you can be threatened with the fact, well, we can send you to court. You can be charged with a... What do you think that's doing to our kids? And what do you think you're perpetuating when it comes to the police department? Me and V didn't have arguments back and forth about that. But if your kid is seeing this on a daily basis, when he's 5, 6, that the court is not my friend, the police is not my friend, and then when you are as a teenager, then you're racially profiled, you're not my friend, then you won't get more of us into the police department to change the whole culture of it. Prevention has to start when the kids are little, so the kids can, the police can interact with our kids, can have a relationship with our kids, can show them it's only a small percentage of them that we need the police. But now, this is only perpetuating the distrust we have even more. So, is your mic on, V? Yeah. So I'm gonna bring V in on this part of this conversation. You heard what we were talking about when it comes to truancy. What are your thoughts on that? And do you have any solutions on what we should be doing. What are some solutions that you would like to see when it comes to this particular piece when it comes to truancy?
Salam first. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh man, it's all good. All right.
So I'll talk for real. And from what I'm gathering from the truancy is seem to be a process that they're using to tag or identify our young people for not going to school. I have 5 in the school system right now, so I'm kind of looking at this from different angles.
Mm-hmm. Um, he'll be right there with you. That's why it's called live. It's live radio.
And I read.
And that's how we do it.
Oh, I feel like I can. Okay. Like I was.
Good. I'm gonna go ahead and finish reading this, and then I'm gonna bring Vern back in. Among those who have been caught up in the truancy law net are an 8th grade girl who missed school after her father was killed in a car accident, a student who went to Haiti to volunteer after a hurricane, and students who performed at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. I bet you most of those do. So, to me, that just popped right out at me. And I couldn't believe how any individual could get in trouble for doing those type of things. But I guess it happened. So, as you were saying, Mr. Vernon.
Yeah, it seemed to be like a process that they're using
Mm-hmm.
to tag the young people for not attending the school system.
Right.
And now that they've tagged a couple of thousand, they're going into the court system, and the parents are going into the court system, and then that starts another process.
Right.
It seemed like everything is a process. I think that it is definitely a negative influence at this point, because we already had statistics that stated that we had a lot of young so-called African American youth already in the criminal system. So if this is a process that is further putting more African or so-called African American youth in the criminal system, then maybe that very act is criminal in itself.
And
if the numbers reflect criminal behavior, that's something that we need to look at on behalf of the so-called African Americans who are considered truant from the school system. Then we should hold those who are identifying them accountable for their actions also.
100%, 100% in agreement with you. So now I can understand partly what their attempt was, because we do have cases where kids should be in school, and some parents, just basically let them stay out. But to criminalize that, to me, really defeat the purpose if the overall goal is to educate our children. Would you agree or disagree?
Well, if the overall goal is to educate our children, then let's look at what they have learned. And they're learning what we're learning of this system.
Mm-hmm.
So we must make a conscious decision to say, well, is this what we want them to learn? That if they don't go to school, they go to jail. And if that's what we want them to learn, then that's what they're going to learn. But I think we can probably make some better recommendations and suggestions, because the school system in itself needs to be looked at in terms of what is being fed to the young people.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they're not going to school, which data has showed that they wasn't going, then we must ask ourselves why. And I think a lot of us know why.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our children, or not all of them, are eating this educational system as well as others. We know that it is not a very good diet for so-called African American children. We know this.
Mm-hmm.
And so until the parents and the fathers, the leadership decide to give their babies the proper honey to eat, then we'll probably continue to complain about their educational system. And and to be honest with you, their educational system is the best that Europe has ever had, and that's something to be noted. But our best is their wonders.
Mm-hmm.
They still wondering how we did the pyramids.
Mm-hmm.
And that was our best.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if we look at this realistically, it's the best that the Europeans can come up with, but I think that we may be able to come up with a little bit more better honey
Right.
for the young.
So, are we actually talking about having our own schools?
I wouldn't even call them schools, but we definitely need to have centers of knowledge. And at this point, age, because of the way the European system is, age breaks it up into categories, which is a divisive tool. It's a fractional tool, not a whole.
Right,
tool.
right.
So if we want to make things whole, maybe we should do it a little different. Have grandma and the baby sitting in the same room, everybody in between.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, but 12 graders, 11 graders, or are you talking about just the babies?
Well, yeah, because then the grades doesn't matter. It's all about cultivation and understanding and knowledge. How can one who has made it into the germ of life, how can they ever be considered a failure? It's just not possible, because you've already broken the impossibility. You've made it here.
Right.
The odds were against us, but we're here.
Right.
So we can do great things, and I think that our educational system is something that we can put together. And I wouldn't call it an educational system personally. I would call it a cultivational system.
Mm-hmm.
That way, if it has to be grades, then that's something that we feel that it'd be cultivating. But I think a lot of our people historically were at 100% employment. We built all of the infrastructure of this country in terms of buildings and railroads, and we did all of that without education. Okay, so now you put in the last 60 years and you throw education in there. Now we don't know nothing. Now we got to go to a training facility to learn how to do something that we had to do because it was 100% employment.
But with the Truancy law, you couldn't do that. So what do we do about the law that we have on the books right now?
Well, the truancy law is kind of like back in the black codes, back in the Jim Crow laws, in terms of how black men could travel. If they caught you, you didn't have your papers, you could be be locked up.
Hello? 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 Are you on there?
Hi. Yeah, this is
How can,
Melanie. I'm calling in to talk about the truancy stuff.
yeah. I'm glad you called in because you really know a lot of the statistics regarding this truancy. First of all, what is the actual number on this law or bill? Hello?
Willie?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know you were talking to me.
Yes. What is the
Okay.
actual law?
The
Well-
actual law, it was the law that was passed in 2010 was LB 800, and that law said that any child in Nebraska who misses 20 days of school for any reason, it didn't matter if the child had cancer, if the child had lost a loved one, if the child has mono or meningitis, it wouldn't matter why the child missed 20 days. They would automatically be referred to the county attorney's office and have to explain why they were sick. They would have to explain and show proof to the deputy county attorneys that, their sicknesses were legitimate, and basically made to feel like a criminal. And that's what's still happening in Douglas County, in the OPS school districts, because our district has not recognized the amendment that we fought and won in the legislature that allowed school districts to determine what was an excused versus an unexcused absence and protect families from this overbroad definition of truancy. This isn't truancy we're talking about, it's attendance. Truancy isn't even in the law anywhere. The word truancy was crossed out and the word attendance was, excessive absenteeism was put in its place. So in a sense, our children are being criminalized for not being sitting in their seats at school.
Wow. Now, take us through a case. Okay, if you was at missed 21 days, what happens after that?
If you miss 21 days of school, and let me back up too, because it's even worse than that. Even in the districts that do honor the amendments and they have a very reasonable attendance policy, what will happen is if you have 19 days of excused absences, but only one day that is not excused by school district policy, then schools still must, they not may, they must return you over to the county attorney. So there's like little room for any child with a disability or an illness to escape being hauled down to the Douglas County Courthouse. And this is happening all over Nebraska in many different courthouses. But if you miss 21 days of school and even one of those days is considered unexcused by school district policy, then they send your name and your school file over to the county attorney's office. That county attorney will then file a petition and have your child or the parent served by a sheriff commanding you to come to court and to bring your child with you. So this could be a 7-year-old child who is being commanded to come down to the courthouse with you, and no one knows what's going to happen because, most families, they try to avoid getting tangled up in law enforcement. And so now we have families with young children who are just trying to get by, trying to view school as a place of safety and of learning, and all of a sudden it's turning into an extension of the county attorney's office in the courthouse. And so the family gets down to the courthouse on the date that they're called for this mass meeting, where they are given two choices. And most families don't know that they actually have a third choice because they're not told that they have a third choice. They're told that they either have to agree to diversion if they deny that their child has been truant. Then they have to either agree to diversion, which means government monitoring, and they can't miss any more days of school, even if there are legitimate reasons. Or they have to decide that they're going to be going to trial and prove to a judge in the juvenile courthouse or the juvenile court that they're innocent.
Are you serious?
Absolutely. And the problem with all of this, especially for families who don't have a lot of money to spend on legal expenses, is that you're given a public pretender who is going to hop across the street, happy to be able to take another case, and they're just going to tell you to go ahead and go along with the system and not to fight for your rights. And it's like becoming a brand new industry for the county attorney's office and all of these layers of new people who have come in to make new money in the name of education, in the name of giving our children more opportunities. And what it's really doing is it's traumatizing families and kids, and it's making children distrustful of the schools that they should feel comfortable and safe going to.
Now, what's when you go down to the court system? What's the breakdown of the folks it actually going through that? Because I know you got a lady that actually go down and monitors the courtroom.
That's right. Yeah, we've got Laura McCormick. She's a wonderful person who puts her time into monitoring what is happening to families at the Douglas County Courthouse, and she's been spending her days observing truancy courts. And her report is that the majority of people that she sees in these mass meetings are black and brown people, and people whose language is not English as the primary language. So, in other words, a lot of the people there are people of color or Hispanic or Sudanese, people who don't know how to assert their rights or what their rights are, or who have the means to be able to afford their own private attorney. So they're agreeing to things that they don't have to agree to just because they don't know what their choices are and because they're being coerced into believing that their children will be taken away from them if they don't agree.
Wow. And I want to finish the conversation with Vernon, but before you go, a couple of things. What can we do, and are there any planned meetings regarding this particular issue?
The Nebraska Family Forum is the leading organization in Nebraska, and it's right here in Omaha. That's the center, but it represents advocating for families all over Nebraska who find themselves caught up with this law. And it's nebraskafamilyforum.org. That's how you can find out all the information about the history of this law. You can read stories that people have submitted about their own experiences. And we encourage families to write to the Nebraska Family Forum and provide us with more information about what's happening to them. So everybody, all of your listeners, anybody who has gone through this experience and feels as though it's unjust to their family, that their children have never been truant, that's not what this is about. When we hear truancy, we think of kids skipping school and their parents don't even know. That's not what this is. This law is grabbing children who are just absent. So if you have listeners who have experienced this, who have questions and don't know what's going on, they're welcome to contact the Nebraska Family Forum. If you go to that website, you can also get to the Facebook page and find a way to contact us and reach out for help, because we want to hear your stories.
Now, Tanya Ward was in that particular position, and she did a powerful testimony, but her kids actually got taken away from her, right?
no, her child was threatened with removal because these petitions that go to families all have this copied and pasted text that basically calls you a child neglector and your child a delinquent. And it's the same language that is used in petitions that are accusing children either of, being unruly or parents of being child neglectors. And they do that without even doing any investigation first. They don't know if you're guilty or not, but they call you guilty. And so what happened to Tanya's family is her 10-year-old son, who has struggled with asthma his entire life and has routinely missed 40 days of school or more, and still passed all of his classes and done very well in school because he has a parent who is involved with his life and he's a good kid. But, it didn't matter to Nebraska lawmakers and to the county attorney. A petition was served to their home, and they were commanded to go to court. And when Tanya chose to leave her son at home and not traumatize him with that experience, she was facing uncertainty about what would happen to her. Another family, parents who did not bring their child to the courthouse, were actually put in jail by Judge Sirkovich for that reason. And she was angry that they were asserting their rights because their son hadn't actually been served himself with a petition. So, this is just out of control. These families are being traumatized and terrorized and intimidated. And, we don't need that. No one can call that education. No one can say that that is caring about our children.
Well, look, again, we really did need to do a follow-up show on this particular piece, as well as meeting. So how do an individual find out when is the next meeting regarding this truancy piece, either in the legislature or is it now before the Board of Education?
Well, it is before the Board of Education in one respect. We are asking first of all, we're asking OPS to revise its policy to allow for a liberal amount of absences that are excused so families are protected and not unnecessarily thrown into the justice system. We are working on repealing this law completely at the legislative level because it's a bad law. It should never have been passed to begin with. It's not the right way to address actual truancy or at-risk children, and it's doing more harm than it should be doing. So the law is bad to begin with. We need more public forums.
Well, I've already told you this is an issue that's jumped in the forefront of Black Men United. We are going to make this front and center, and we're going to get as much information out. More importantly, we want the elected officials, the folks from the city, the prosecutor's office, to be a part of this. And also, I think you alluded to it earlier, we need to go and repeal this ordinance. There should never be a crime attached to education, period.
That's right.
So, and as I said at the meeting, how are they getting this information out? If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't know anything about it. And I sit in the audience, and I didn't say anything purposely for a reason. I just listened. And I was just totally blown away by what was taking place. And then to get up, and these individuals did nothing to get those individuals who were impacted by this to this meeting. They had no way of getting information out to the public, but yet when they want to sell something to OPS, they'll send it out to all the parents. This should have been sent to all the parents that this is taking place, so they would have a place to go and find out what is happening to their babies.
That's right.
I'm gonna send my baby to school, and because my baby got a medical condition, or because you perceive that I'm an unfit parent, that you're gonna put my son or my daughter through the criminal justice system? Are you people crazy? How did this law even get passed? Go ahead.
We have to work to give information to the public, and OPS has a responsibility to the families it is supposed to be serving. You know, since when are we subjects of the school system that we pay for? These are people who should be focused on educating our children, not be an extension of law enforcement and threatening our children with prosecution and threatening to remove them from their families. This is, I mean, it's a very sad day when that law passed, and every day that we see families being drugged down to the courthouse for reasons other than being lawbreakers and hurting other people. That's not what's happening.
Well, I'm so glad you called in, and we need to schedule a show date. Bring you, Lori, and also I'll maybe have Mary Jorgensen from the commissioner's office, because I was totally taken back. Here you got the chair of the commission,
right,
saying this is bad.
Yep, absolutely.
You got the chair.
They know what's up.
So for the chair to say this is bad, that red flag should go up. So I want to thank you so much for calling in, and we really do need to educate folks. And I just talked to my guy Vernon. He said, "Hey, Will." And the next day they had this particular piece. He wants to be there. Right now, I think this is something that we need to ring the bell, if you will. When it comes to a point where our kids are going down the criminal justice system as young as 5, 6, 7, do you know what type of psychological things are happening to our children? Do you know how traumatized our kids are going to get by being involved in the court system when they're that young?
Right.
And we already got a problem with the police department. We already disconnect. This is only perpetuating. So we need to really get folks educated about this. But more importantly, we need to change this law. This law needs to be gone.
That's right.
So we want to thank you for calling in so much, and I will be getting in touch with you to do a follow-up show on this.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks so much, Willie. You're doing a great service to the community. I appreciate it.
No, thank you.
Bye.
Again, Vern, as you listen to that,
wow,
you have a European lady saying this is bad, but yet it's disproportionate to people of color. Now, if white folks saying this is bad for their kids, shouldn't we be saying the same thing for ours?
Yes, definitely. That was very valuable information.
So we need to really educate ourselves about, first of all, how long this has been going on, how many children are actually, because if the numbers are thousands like they were saying in that room, wow, to go from 250 to thousands, how? I mean, that's in itself to be a red flag. So we will be at the next meeting, me and my guy, but I'm gonna educate myself before I go into the meeting, because I really have some questions on how any individual who came up with this concept would think it would benefit our children, or they would do the dropout. I mean, but I think when you alluded earlier, and I want you to speak on that, is that we may have to separate. We may have to get a new way of educating our children, and you alluded to that earlier. So what were we going to say?
Well, from the root of it is that we owe it to ourselves, our ancestors. Understanding slavery. We need to have that point in history that we returned to home at some point. 13th Amendment, involuntary slavery, and 14th Amendment, citizenship, is something that we must look at in order to really deal with these issues from a lawful standpoint that will allow us to deal with the legal standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And, in truth, all our babies should understand law, because that gives you your boundaries of operation.
That's my guy, Mr. Vernon Muhammad. We call him part of the Trinity. This is a very I think serious issue for me, um, and quiet as it kept, and I thought I was up on things, but as quiet as it kept, this law is causing more harm than good.
Well, you are up on things. I mean, this is why we having this discussion.
I know Brad Asford. He said we want to get this right, so he even admitting that this bill, LB 933, which would require county attorneys to work on cases with school officials, not the courthouse. See, so who introduced the bill saying, no, you don't need to be sent not down to the courthouse. I mean, come on, but like I say, we get what we deserve.
Well, the courthouse. We look at this realistically. From the numbers going from 250 to 4,100 of charges per se to the courthouse. Now you're talking money. Courthouse charges money.
250.
So
court call.
So you look at the math in terms of the money side, then you see the motivation behind it, because it starts a trail of other payments down the road from tickets and all of these type of things, which, in truth, as so-called African Americans, we have to look at the 14th Amendment, and who signed on to that contract.
Right. And we debate this all the time. Well, look, folks, man, the time is just flying. We gonna have to bring the Trinity on, man, and really have a discussion. Just black men, just basically just sitting down and just talk and have dialogue. We call it rap sessions, and talk about the issues in this community. But as black men, what are our roles and what are our responsibilities in addressing and fixing this problem? I said, it may make women mad, but I'm not trying to put women down in any way, shape, or form. I love my mama. And my mama have always been a big part of my life. But yet, I think a lot of the bumps and bruises I got because I didn't have a father figure in my life. I didn't know what it took to be a man, and what that means when you say you're a man. A lot of folks have definitions of what men are, what a man should be, but to actually see a man do it and see him do, and how to be a man, and how a man should carry himself, it goes a long way. And it was later in life, after I had made some boo-boos, that I actually saw a man who went to work every day, a man who took care of his family, who treated his wife as a queen, a man who was respected in the community and was upright. Then I wanted to emulate that man. But our kids don't see men. They see gang members. And that's why they gravitate to those individuals. They learn about it through sex and all those type of things, because they don't have a man to teach them how a man should act and how he conduct and how he should treat a woman. So it's imperative to us to be able to, as men, take our rightful place back.
Right, and slavery didn't create men. It was designed to break men. So our time in this history, we're coming from a process of broken men. And those with fathers didn't have fathers, mothers as well, or didn't have mothers. We went through a broken process. So, I think, when you listen to the information that the young lady gave us and what we're talking about tonight, it brings you back to Scripture, because our biggest asset is Scripture, because we're fulfilling a particular people. and just in realizing that we, that particular people, hopefully gives us enough faith to press on and to tackle the issues that we have. Because this issue right here that we're looking at is just a drop in the bucket of the issues that you deal with as Black Men United. And looking at this one and taking it to the forefront, how many issues have you done that with? So we have such a big problem out here, but we're chosen for a reason. And I want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, because real talk gives us opportunity to talk for real.
Boy, that is the ending to the show. We definitely gonna have to do this. Do a summit. We did it. Was it a year or 2 years ago?
Yeah.
And we did it with 10 cities.
Yeah.
We got away from it. We lost that. That was magic that day. I mean, we even though we was in different cities, we all connected. And Mr. Ali, he don't get involved in too many things. He was so pumped after that meeting, or after that dialogue, after that rap session. Just men, just engaging each other, and it was a powerful thing, man. So we definitely need to, maybe do it on a smaller scale, but also touch base with Philip and say, hey, look, Philip, man, we need to do another one of these summits, 10 cities. Make this time, let's do 20 cities. And like I said, the thing was so well. We was in there for like 4 or 5 hours. And usually, man, people ain't gonna sit down in no meetings for those 4 or 5 hours and all they're doing is talking. Man, we was in there for hours, and then even after we was off the air, they still were like this can't end. You know what I'm saying? Right. You know how you go on a good date. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to get it over with. Right. It was just that good. It had that much substance to it. You know what I'm saying? And I really believe with all my heart. And that's why I came up with the name. We're the key. We're the answer to this solution. Because if Black men get united, the rest of it is moot.
And it's interesting that slavery broke men, but it is those broken men and the love that they have when they come together that's really the healing. Because the Million Man March and the Million Family March and the Million Youth March and just people coming together, to heal wounds, especially the wounds of the Bible, which is us. And I mean, if they would just do us right now, do right by us now, the minister talked about the storms were stopping. Maybe we can solve some of these cancers and ailments in the people's bodies, because I think we have that kind of talent amongst our children that can come up with those cures if we can just free our minds enough, I guess, to focus.
Well, you know something? I never thought in my lifetime that I'd see a black president, and look what happened, manifested. So I believe in our lifetime, man, dude, we're the key to this mix. And the minute we realize that we're God, and we're the key to this mix, and we're the answer, I'm saying it again, we're God. We're God.
Now technically, with his father's bloodline, you can't really consider him a black president. Maybe
well, what I'm saying?
Black in color, but not in terms of the
I tell you like this, dude. Until we change the Constitution and get rid of that one-drop rule, hey, look, that's where it is. One drop. You got one drop of black blood, you're considered black.
Well, one day we need to talk about the Constitution and put it in perspective on who gave it to whom and who received it and who it belonged to.
It don't belong to us. I know it don't. Oh, come on, man. We're slaves. They call us in the fields and say, hey, look, man, what you think about this Constitution? No. Well, that's a whole different story, my guy.
And being indigenous, that's some of the things she was talking about. Mm-hmm. We needed laws and stuff, United Nations and laws and international law. Mm-hmm. With the indigenous people and different things we need to have a talk about too.
That's why I say, man, we need to have a summit So because then B be able to come out here, man, and we're gonna hit this thing hard, man, because we really hit some good points. I'm feeling good in my spirit. I really I felt good before I got on the show because I was sitting down and I was talking to two brothers, two gods. I ain't three gods, and I was pumped before I even came on the show. And I'm gonna end it like this: we number one. Come on, 106.9, Cat 94.1. Come get this trophy. We number one. We're number two in the state. Come get this crown, man. If not, we're going to keep it rolling because we 1690 AM the one, and we are the voice of the people. The voice of the voiceless, folks. So we out of here. Real talk. Thank my guy, Big V. And more importantly, I want to thank you guys for tuning in.
Salam.
And as always, peace.
Sting like a butterfly and float like a bee. The mute.